We need a soundtrack. We need an intro song. We'll get on that. Welcome. What is up? Welcome to The Mixer. I am your host, Ars. I'm joined by my co-host here, Jeff. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
How do you feel after that weekend of sports? We had NHL in action, MLB in action. We had some auto racing, more football news. Was it maybe the best weekend of sports that we're going to see for a while?
It was one of the most active weekends we're gonna have. I know we'll get to my opinion on baseball a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, it's nice having it back. It's not normal, obviously.
Yeah.
People can't go to games, but it's fun to be able to watch it and to see guys compete again.
Yeah. And I mean, NBA, you got the digital fans, so
yeah,
and you got the creepy cardboard cutouts of the Colorado Rockies games of players, which I still don't understand. Anywho, let's get into the show, shall we? First off, don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, also on YouTube, and then our social channels. At FC Wine Mixer on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Jeff, I know you were working on a TikTok Wine Mixer page, but seems like that effort might be fraught from the beginning.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to slow down on that one.
Anywho, I wanted, speaking of good news, since we had sports back, I wanted to give the good news on my Jeep story from last week. Just quickly, I finally got a call from the service manager, and he was very attentive and made me feel very heard, like a good service manager does. And I'm getting a full refund, so one for the good guys. One for the good guys. The dealership is still, I would not go there for service ever again, but at least the guy got it right.
It pays to be a Karen sometimes.
I feel bad for Karens, man. I know a Karen. She's not a Karen, but then I also know a girl who's not a Karen, but definitely is a Karen. You know who you are. Anywho, some other big news. This might get meta for a few minutes, but we are kind of a fantasy sports podcast. We got a message from our commissioner this week, and we got some details on how our draft order is going to be determined in a COVID truncated off-season program that our league usually is involved quite heavily in. All the major sports events like the NCAA tournament and like Kentucky Derby, all kinds of events that got canceled over the summer or postponed. And part of it is two kind of Royal Rumble style events, one on Smash Brothers and one on WWE 2K16. Jeff, do you want to reveal any of your strategy, or how pumped are you for the stream for our draft order selection?
I mean, I'm really excited. I think that, I went with a unique strategy in Smash Bros. Of trying to take people trying to grab a high-rated character that no one would take. But at the end of the day, it's a simulation.
Yeah, I know.
So I don't think the character really matters all that much because the computer's going to do what it's going to do. Now, in 2K WWE, I think the character you choose will matter a lot more because they are rated, whereas like the Smash Bros. Characters aren't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you can have, if someone chooses, I don't know, some wrestler who's like an 80 overall, right?
Wait, they have ratings on wrestling? You're kind of blowing my mind here.
Whoa,
just like
hold
a
on.
Madden score, they get a wrestling score?
Hold on. If you don't know that, I got to stop talking right now because I can't give away my whole strategy here. But yes, they definitely have ratings, just like in Madden.
I already turned in my selection, so
Ooh, who'd you ask for? I'll tell you my three if you tell me your three.
Okay, so for wrestling,
Yeah.
I put the Big Show. Wait, no, I put Undertaker number one, and then I put the Big Show, and then I put Brock Lesnar because I
Okay.
figured big guys, maybe they're harder to get thrown out of the ring, but I don't know. It's probably a bad strategy. Probably
No,
should have Rey Mysterio.
no. So you went with so Undertaker, Big Show, and then Brock in that order.
Yeah,
So you won't get Brock, I'll tell you that.
damn it.
But um like the Undertaker and Big Show are both decently rated in that game. So
Uh,
you'll have, if you get either of them, you'll be fine.
Sweet.
Especially they're big guys too. So they're you know, they can put guys over the ropes.
Yeah, I'm excited though. I'm maybe more excited for that stream than I am for whatever's left of hockey. to put it in perspective. So yeah, let's get into the sports weekend, shall we? So baseball happened. I'm already kind of losing interest. However, the Padres played the Dodgers last night, and it was a good close game. So that kind of got me reignited. But watching that Rockies series, maybe because the Padres didn't do well, or I don't know, maybe it was the creepy player cutouts behind home plate. But did not really do it for me. I kind of fizzled. NBA back into swing. The Lakers versus Clippers had a great game. The Lakers Raptors game was good. I believe the Raptors smoked the Lakers, and then I also watched the Clippers versus Pelicans, and the Clippers destroyed the Pelicans. So, I mean, those are kind of the three teams that are looking the best. I don't know about you. It seems like Lakers, Clippers, and Raptors are the ones, you know, impressing the most. But then again, those are the three teams I watched. So,
You left out the Bucks. The Bucks
Mhm.
are arguably the best team in the league. Um, so, like them, Giannis, they're going to be tough to beat. But yeah, it's those, Clippers and Lakers in the West are probably the two best teams. And then you've got, in the East, you've got the Bucks, record-wise, are pretty far ahead. And then Toronto's always scary because, LeBron's not in the East anymore, so they can actually win a playoff series now. So.
Yeah. Are the digital fans doing it for you? I kind of like the look and feel of the basketball games. It almost reminds me of, I had this girlfriend in high school, and she did like dance competitions. And do you remember? Well, I mean, I guess they do like the cheer competitions on ESPN still, but it has like, I don't know, the lighting there, and it just reminds me of those like dance competitions that were on ESPN randomly when maybe access to other sports during the summer wasn't as good.
I remember
So
that. I remember they used to have the cheer ones on all the time, too.
yeah, or you throw it on and you're like, okay, in 10 minutes Sports Center starts, or in 10 minutes this baseball game starts. Like
Exactly.
you're just watching it, you're like, what is this? Anyway, that something about the lighting or the atmosphere where there's like no fans, but you can like kind of hear a little bit of ambient noise reminds me of those. Um, Anywho, so that is the NBA. So the we have 2 weeks until the playoffs start. I think that's when it's really gonna kick into high gear.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, so the NHL is still around. I haven't watched a single game, so I think we'll just leave it at that. But this was they just started up. They had the initial rounds where the best teams weren't even playing. So,
Right.
well, in games that mattered, they had like warm up games between each other for seeding, which I don't know, just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
Uh, One of the big events of the weekend, though, was the FA Cup final.
Mm-hmm.
So Pulisic made the classic mistake of scoring too early, but he looked awesome. He put up Chelsea 1-0 within the first 5 minutes, or within the first 6 minutes at least.
Yeah.
And then in the second half, he pulled his hamstring. Aubameyang scored 2, and the Gunners get another piece of silverware, while Tottenham's trophy case adds another layer of dust. So eat that, Tottenham fans. And yeah, Arsenal wins 2-1. Pretty good game. There might have been some questionable calls. I know the Arsenal's first goal, the PK was kind of questionable, and then there was a Chelsea player sent off with a red card later on that was kind of questionable. But I think Arsenal looked like the better team. Aubameyang's second goal was great.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, I hope they keep him around. I hope they sign him. But yeah, as an Arsenal fan who's been very frustrated this season, this is one bright spot. They pull it off in the FA Cup, as they seem to usually do. Jeff, did you watch the game?
I did not. I got up, I saw Pulsic score, and did not care about the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things that I think is awesome about the way soccer is structured, at least internationally, because it's not really like this in the U.S. But you've got your normal like league trophy, right? And then the way they do things, I think, is just overall better for fans in general. Because you've got your league trophy, right? So they play 39 games or something like that.
Yeah.
And whoever has the most points at the end of the season wins the league, right? But then along the way, they're playing in the FA Cup, you're playing in the Champions League or the Europa League, or you've got these other tournaments that you're playing in that, like, I think if you asked any Arsenal fan on the planet, they had an extremely disappointing season this year, finishing like 9th in the table or something like that.
I think it was 8th.
So like they finished 8th or 9th, but they play well in one competition, the FA Cup, and they end up winning it. So at the end of the day, they get to take a trophy home.
Yep.
Right, to kind of build momentum for next year already. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that, with the way we do things over here, I think it's really awesome for, the team that wins, like the playoffs. Like, it's great. I would love to see some sort of like, mid-season tournament or like regular season. Like for football, I don't know if you could structure it much differently because of how impactful it is on the body.
Right.
But like if baseball and basketball went to like, their seasons extended, right? But they threw in like a mid-season tournament, or like each week you play, like for basketball, if you played, like some sort of like Tuesday or Wednesday and then Friday, Sunday, Thursday, Saturday type thing, to where your weekend games are your regular season games, and then your midweek games are your tournament games.
Right.
It also, the cool thing that it allows soccer teams to do is play guys that don't normally play like in your league, right?
Yeah,
like you see a lot of these teams. Now, when they get to the final, Aubameyang's playing. He's one of the best finishers in the world. Pulisic is playing. Right. All the big names are, but like when you watch these build-up games that are like getting them there, a lot of backups play, a lot of young guys play.
Yeah.
And I think it's great for that, honestly. And that's just my opinion. But it would be awesome to see some sort of like setup like that.
It's almost like a lot of those cups, at least early on, are development league games.
Yeah.
You're right in the sense that it'd be very difficult for football, American football, to pull something like that off. However, if they expanded rosters, I think it's possible. It'd be interesting. They'd have to do it on a smaller scale, but I wish more sports did this. Maybe basketball will. They keep talking about it, so I think if basketball does it, it might open up the opportunity for other sports to see how successful it is and implement it. The one thing
go.
I was just going to say, the one thing about the soccer, all these soccer tournaments, some of the names, man, It's either like an A or an F. There's no middle ground. Like Champions League, like that sounds pretty badass.
Yeah.
Carabao Cup.
What
No.
is Carabao?
Yeah. What? And I think it used to be the Capital One Cup, which
Yeah.
okay, corporate sponsorship, whatever. But then you have, and then in the World Cup, obviously World Cup. I can't think of a better ass name for a tournament than that. But then in women's soccer, you have the She Believes Cup, which I mean is promoting women's activism, but it's such like a whimper of a name.
Yeah.
And don't forget the MLS is back tournament. Who wrote that? Did I write that? Worse than my show notes.
Oh my god. But okay, to leave soccer real quick and to go back to baseball. I have to say I'm a huge baseball fan. Have been my whole life, played it my whole life. Coach baseball now, have for like 4 or 5 years at this point. I absolutely love baseball. When your commissioner comes out and says, we might be shutting the season down as early as Monday or Tuesday, depending on like the testing and stuff, I just completely tuned out this weekend. I've kind of, like, I hate to say it because I run the fantasy baseball league. I low-key tuned out of fantasy baseball.
Yeah.
Like, I do not expect baseball to finish at this point. Like, when your commissioner's saying, like, we're already thinking about shutting down again.
Yeah.
I'm over it. I don't even want to watch games anymore because I don't want to get invested in the season and have it shut down.
Yeah, I hear you. It's disheartening. Manfred's handling of a lot of things have been questionable. None more so than possibly managing the coronavirus situation. We'll get into all the positive tests in a little bit, but I'm right there with you, Jeff. Hopefully it's just him trying to put pressure on the players to listen. We'll see, though. Jeff, did you watch the British GP at all? It's Silver.
So I have a confession on this. Is I really wanted to watch this and completely forgot it was this weekend.
Do you have ESPN Plus?
I do have ESPN Plus.
You can rewatch it. It's the on-demand feature. ESPN Plus is one of the best apps out there.
Yeah.
It may be part of the Disney family, the Thanos of the entertainment world by owning pretty much every reputable franchise there is. But anywho, ESPN Plus is great. So just a quick summary here. So Mercedes dominated 1-2. They were, I believe, a full second ahead of any other car in qualifying. So, which is a huge gap. I mean, that's like a 50-17 win in American football. A second is huge in Formula One. It was pretty standard. I mean, the opening laps were exciting, but things really kicked off when, with 5 laps to go, Kimi Räikkönen's former Ferrari champ, his Alfa Romeo had a front wing failure, and it spread debris all over the track, and some drivers started picking up punctures. The first one was Valtteri Bottas, Hamilton's teammate in the second Mercedes. He was running a comfortable second place. He got a puncture with 2 laps to go. And he got it in a very bad spot. He had just passed the pit lane, so he had to go the whole lap around to get into the pits. So he dropped down out of the points. I think he rejoined in 11th or 12th place.
Okay.
And then at one point on the broadcast, they were showing Bottas, and they had a graphic come up that said Hamilton. So I thought like both of them had a puncture at the same time, which you'll see happen if there's a problem with a certain car design. All of a sudden, both the cars will have the same problem at the same time. So
right.
Anyway, the announcer kind of gave me and a bunch of other people on Twitter a heart attack. So Verstappen was running third. Then Bottas had his failure, so he knew he was going to be bumped up to second. So he threw on he went to pit to throw on softer tires to try to set the fastest lap because you get an extra point for setting the fastest lap of the race, which he ended up doing. But he lost 20 seconds by pitting. Then Hamilton got a puncture, and it was for real this time. And he had a little less than half a lap to go, but he had a 30-second lead on Verstappen because Verstappen went in and pit to try to set the fastest lap. Verstappen closed in to within 5 seconds while Hamilton was limping his car around on 30 tires. Mercedes sent out a tweet saying that Lewis Hamilton on 3 wheels was going 230 kilometers down a straightaway. So I think that equates to maybe 130, 140 miles an hour or something on 3 wheels. Pretty wild. Carlos Sainz also got a puncture. He was running 5th. So there was chaos everywhere in the last 2 laps. He ended up finishing Hamilton, Verstappen. Leclerc somehow picked up 3rd in a just god-awful Ferrari. Ricciardo finished 4th. Lando Norris finished 5th. Sebastian Vettel, thanks to a few cars in front of him getting those punctures, he finished 10th. And then Bottas was battling Hamilton or battling Vettel right at the end. Finished out of the points in 11th. So it would have been really boring if not for the last 5 laps. The main takeaway is Hamilton now has a 30-point lead in the championship, and there might only be like 5-6 races left. So it's looking like it's pretty wrapped up. Good news for you, Jeff. They're back at the same track next weekend with softer compounds, so there might be more tire issues like there were this week.
There we go.
And it's a different name. It's the 70th anniversary Grand Prix. So give it a watch if you can.
I definitely will.
Get some weather. It's a nice track. The cool thing is they have that camera that's on a cable that runs the length of one of the straightaways.
Oh, gotcha.
It really gives you an idea of how fast those things go. Because it's one thing to be stationary and see them kind of zoom by, but this one, you can like see how fast the cable's moving, and then the car just comes out of the corner. It's like gone, like a rocket.
So I got a couple things on this after looking at the standings a little bit, or like how they finished the results. Happy, our boy Danny Ricciardo got up to 4th. Like that guy, seems like a good dude.
His car number is number 3
for you. Another one I like seeing Pierre Gasly pop up. He got up to 7. Alex Albon too seems like a good guy. He's an 8th. I know that's probably a disappointment for Red Bull, but it's not a terrible finish. Obviously, I think in F1, anytime, from what I've gathered, for a lot of racers and a lot of teams, anytime, as long as you finish in the points, it's not a terrible race. Bottas got unlucky with the puncture, ends up in 11th instead of 2nd, right? The one I like to see, just because he seems like a cool guy, George Russell coming up to 12th in his trash-ass Williams car. He seems like a good guy. I've heard a lot of rumblings about him going to a bigger team at some point, but obviously you don't know about that till it's done. And then the other one is, I hate to say it because they're the only American team there. I love when the Haas guys finish terrible because I hate both of their drivers. I hate Kevin Magnussen and Grosjean.
I like Magnussen. I like his attitude, but Grosjean is my least favorite driver.
Yeah, anytime I see them near the bottom, I'm cool with it. And like, I want Haas to stay in Formula One. I think it's awesome. They got a long racing history, right? And they've been decent in Formula One for a few years, but last year they kind of started falling back, and then this year they're doing pretty bad as well. So that's I don't know. I don't like either of those drivers.
Ferrari engine in the Haas. And they're talking about, I don't know how the customer car program works, but similar to how Racing Point's Pink Panther is, it's a pink Mercedes. It's last year's Mercedes. So
right.
That's why they're doing so well this season. Not so much this race, but I believe there were in
general
Ferrari to do the same with Haas or Alfa Romeo. So yeah. The Haas team, I mean, they are an American-owned team. They've been up and down. Not a fan of Grosjean. I wish they would get rid of him. He whines too much. But, there's something to watch up and down the grid. So tune in. If you have not, give it a chance. Give it a chance. Pick a driver and root for them. And you might be surprised on how much you enjoy it. All right, let's get into the coronavirus updates here. This week in the air is poison. So the NFL, 40 plus players have opted out. Most notably, Damian Williams and 7 Patriots, last I checked. So the opt-out deadline as of yesterday was Wednesday. I saw something this morning saying it's actually going to be Thursday. Some people who tested positive or had to get put on the COVID IL or whatever they're calling it in training camp. Gardner Minshew and Matthew Stafford both missed time due to coronavirus. I don't know if they actually had it or if they were just in close contact with somebody and had to pass the testing protocols in order to return. I didn't, with HIPAA. By the way, HIPAA is like one of those things that not everybody knows what it is, but the people who know what it is want you to know that they know what it is. It's overused. It's I don't know. It almost seems like I feel like people are just try to sound smarter than they actually are when they throw HIPAA around, like Ezekiel Elliott when the coronavirus thing, and he just tweeted out HIPAA because somebody leaked that he had contracted it or something, and he's like, well, I definitely didn't okay that.
I mean, to be completely honest, though, I want to know if guys are getting it now, so that when I draft them, I'm not as worried about them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the science may or may not still be out on the antibodies aspect, but I know what you mean. I know our league mate Mason. He feels invincible since he contracted the virus. He feels like he's like a coronavirus Spider-Man or something.
As he should. He should feel invincible.
A man among mere mortals. And also Doug Peterson tested positive. No coaches have opted out, which their jobs probably more at risk if they do opt out. So they're kind of put in a tough position there. Let me touch on F1. So Sergio Perez missed the British Grand Prix due to testing positive. He's the first driver to miss out on a race. Baseball. So the Marlins outbreak seems contained at the moment. There haven't been any additional positives as far as I know from last week. However, we got another team, the St. Louis Cardinals, who are having somewhat of a miniature outbreak. They have at least 6 positive cases. Their games have been postponed. Some other notable news here: Yoenis Cespedes disappeared, and the Mets handled it in the most Mets way possible by just tweeting out he's not with the team and we can't reach him, which made it seem like he might be dead.
I read about this, and apparently Cespedes, something happened. He decided to pack up his stuff and leave, and his agent apparently he told his agent, and it was communicated like mid-game that he wasn't gonna play anymore, that he was opting out. So kind of interesting.
Yeah. He didn't travel back with the team, and while all this news was going on, he was hanging out at the mall.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of bizarre. So Lorenzo Cain, he opted out. Rob Manfred putting the blame on the players, saying if they're not more responsible about it, they're going to have to cancel the season. Jeffy already brought that up. And I mean, you kind of already stated, you don't see us making it to the end of the year. Do you see us making it to the end of the month even?
I don't know. If there's no other like big outbreaks, I definitely do. But it depends. Like the Marlins outbreak essentially shut down the season for a weekend plus for 4 teams, right?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just the Marlins, it was the Marlins and whoever they were supposed to play next. I think it was the Nationals who voted not to go there. And then the Phillies and the Yankees, because the Phillies had just played the Marlins, and the Phillies and Yankees series got canceled. I think, this Cardinals, anytime there's an outbreak, it doesn't just affect one team, right? It affects at minimum 2 teams, if not more. It's tough. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Manfred, throwing it out the way he did. But I also don't think he's necessarily wrong. Like, is reported the Marlins got their outbreak after they went to a club.
Mm-hmm.
And it's reported the Cardinals got their outbreak after they went to a casino or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, guys need to be more concerned, but also this is kind of the problem with the United States at the moment, is like different states handle this differently. And it's not, I think it's the only reason that like the NFL and the NHL or the NBA and the NHL might work really is because they're all in the same place. Like, but yeah, I mean, like, not to derail too much, but like, we're in San Diego, right? You have to wear a mask everywhere you go. A lot of places are closed, right? Like restaurants, you can't eat inside the restaurants, stuff like that. We went to Idaho last weekend, right? Or 2 weekends ago. And you can do whatever. Like, there's no real regulations on it or anything. Like, it's suggested that you wear a mask, but like nothing's closed. You can eat inside every restaurant, stuff like, and it's more rural. There's not as many people there. So like, I understand that like they don't see it the way like we do, but when you're asking teams in all these different places to like essentially do the same things when it may not align with what they're doing in that place, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's tough. I don't know if I see baseball finishing, to be honest. They've had so many issues so far. Has Mike Trout,
second week.
Is Trout even back yet?
Yeah, he came back. Well, he's returning today, supposedly, from paternity leave.
Right, like he literally just had a kid.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was going to say I would be surprised if Trout came back a little bit, because he has the perfect reason not to, right? It's the reason a lot of people haven't, or not a lot of the people that decided to opt out, had recently had kids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I get that, man. As a guy with a baby, it's not only do you have to worry about the people not getting their kids vaccinated, so you have like the measles that you kind of have to worry about a little bit more than maybe in decades past. But yeah, you have this coronavirus thing, and maybe they're not as susceptible to the illness, but I mean, when you have a little kid, you don't want to take that chance. I remember seeing pretty early on they had the NBC Nightly News had like the first infant that tested positive in New York, and they had like video of the baby.
Right.
I don't know how they could even show that, but you could just tell the baby was having a hard time breathing, and ugh, it's no fun. So yeah, and you see like a lot of opting out in the NFL are people with young children, and then it's a lot of linemen who have to be face to face with somebody else from the other team, and then corners and wide receivers, same thing. They're always face to face. So it's a trend to look out for. I expect a flurry of names today, tomorrow, and Thursday opting out, and then I said it earlier. I don't know how you just put a hard deadline right there. Baseball, it seems like you can opt out at any moment, unless there's a deadline further into the season. But with this kind of health issue, I expect there'd be lawsuits and more development as it goes on. I don't know if we make it into September for baseball. As you said, you have people not following the regulations, and when you're in a team, a family, a workplace, you're only as strong as the weakest link in the chain. You might do everything, but if you have to be in a room or for an extended amount of time with anybody, you're very vulnerable. You're just as vulnerable as the person you're alongside, how serious they're taking it. And Americans are impatient and stubborn, and it's reflecting by the state of things with the pandemic here. Meanwhile, you see other countries, and the Premier League hasn't had that the kind of problems that that we're having here. So I keep coming back to that Sean Doolittle quote: "Sports are the reward for functioning society," and right now there's quite a bit of dysfunction going around. I wanted to get into this We Are United movement. Jeff, I know you had to bounce earlier. Are you still able to stick around for a few minutes, or do you want to jump off and I can just cover this?
Yeah,
this up?
We can do this one. I'll stay for this because this is. I was reading about this last night or yesterday a little bit.
So just to give some context to our lovely listeners, beautiful listeners. So there is a group of Pac-12 players. I believe it's 500 plus players who have basically joined this hashtag We Are United movement with some demands. So in order to play this season, meet these demands, well, we're not going to play. We're going to sit out. So this is what they want. They want their scholarships protected if they opt out due to coronavirus.
Real quick, just so everyone knows, the Pac-12 is unique, I believe, in how they handle scholarships. So something most people don't know about like Division I scholarships for athletes is at a lot of schools, they are renewed every year. They're just 1 year. So obviously most schools will honor, like, if you come in and you get hurt, you can't play anymore, they'll still let you like finish out, even though, this and that.
Unless you're a complete knucklehead or something.
Yeah, but the Pac-12, actually, I believe it's 2015 or 2016, switched to where now they're offering 4-year scholarships. So it doesn't have to be renewed every year. It's not you're still on the team. You're here. It's a 4-year scholarship. What players are worried about, I believe, is if they willingly opt out of not going to school this year and not playing football.
They're basically opting out of their scholarship.
Right. They don't want to lose the scholarship because they're doing it for health issues or whatever the reason may be. Right. They're not doing it because they don't want to play or they don't want to go to that school. So that's their concern.
Thank you for providing that information because the Pac-12 players are unique. They're the first ones to come up with this movement, this solution, and it might make sense knowing that why they were. So they also want third-party monitored safety standards with handling the coronavirus. They want guaranteed health care if they, in the event that they contract the virus, so they don't want to be paying out of pocket for
Right.
their treatment. Which, okay, I guess healthcare is a whole nother topic, but
Well,
I believe that's a pretty basic need that should be handled.
yeah, and a lot of people are gonna say like, oh, well, you know, they don't want to pay out of pocket. I know a lot of people have brought up the job thing with Division 1 athletes for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and I just really encourage you to do a little research and find out what it means to be a Division 1 athlete and how much time you spend going to school and training for your
Right.
sport. There's no real job you can get and do that. So
Yeah.
don't really know how people would be expected to pay for things if they had to.
Yeah. Yeah. If I was gonna give a shout out to it earlier, but Last Chance U is back, and I love me some gritty documentaries, and this one is a gritty sports documentary. And this season, they're following a junior college in Oakland.
Okay.
Um, and so in other states, I don't know what the junior college football like rules are as far as is how the athletes are given amenities and stuff, but in California, I guess it's different. There's no housing, there's no like food allowance, and I guess in other states there are. So you see these guys, they're going to school, they have babies, and they're working at like Wingstop and shit,
Yeah.
and having to deal with paying for gas to get to the games. It's just really like gritty, real, raw, and super relatable as somebody who had to go to a junior college work and
Right.
um, and and just try to grind it out. It's worth a watch. But anywho, you know, kind of like what we were saying before, you don't really know what somebody's going through unless you've kind of experienced it or walked in their shoes, I guess.
Right.
And Last Chance U might be a way for you to see, so you can relate a little bit better. Some of the other demands for the Pac-12 players movement, they want free speech rights, so they don't want any suspensions or penalties if they do things like kneel for the anthem. Um, they want a percentage of pay, I believe 50% for all student athletes. So they want whatever sports bringing in, they want 50% of it at least to go back to the athletes. So, I mean, that's kind of another element of college sports in general that is always up for debate. But they brought that into, they're trying to leverage their position here.
Right.
And to pay for that, they recommend ending lavish facility spending. Some of these facilities are crazy. I mean, I see them
Mm-hmm.
on Twitter, like LSU, all those SEC schools. I know just with the Aztecs, like you walk around the SDSU campus, I'm like, whoa, like this is some
Yeah.
impressive architecture and just facilities. And it's like, the basketball team brought that in. It's a packed house every night. You can't get season tickets, and it's been like that for years. And these guys aren't
Right.
getting any of it. They also want all sports programs that have been canceled due to the coronavirus to be reinstated. Stanford is most notably, they cut a bunch of their programs, and of course they're in the Pac-12, so
Right.
that's why they're called out in this. They want to end racial injustice and reinvest in communities and programs that help Black athletes and their families. They have a ton of demands. They seem really well thought out. From my position at least, I recommend reading it. However, the players are already facing some backlash on this. Most notably, there's a sophomore corner for Washington. He's saying that his coach threatened to have his scholarship revoked for affiliating with the group.
Mm-hmm.
He has sickle cell anemia, so he has some health concerns, I believe there's a taped phone call between them, which may or may not be, now we're into kind of legal issues, and I don't know if that recording was legal. So I think it was out there, and I think it got pulled already because of maybe threatening lawsuits.
Right.
But basically, the coach said that he understood the players sitting out for the coronavirus. He makes sense. But by affiliating with the WeAreUnited movement, and I believe he specifically called out the Black Lives Matter element, that was a problem, and that the university would maybe take action against that because of his stand with the movement. And other players supposedly were sent a similar message, but it wasn't recorded. So some really shady stuff going on.
I heard that I was reading an article about it yesterday that one of his teammates said basically like, I wish I could do that. I wish I could sit out and like do all that, but I've got to make sure my family gets paid, kind of thing.
Oh no.
Yeah, and but it shows you the position that a lot of these guys are in, right? Like they're not, like they may want to sit out or they may want to stand up for something, but they also don't want to jeopardize, a lot of people that play college football or that play sports in general don't necessarily come from the best background, right? Or the most well-off background. And so you hear a lot of guys that, like, I mean, you can look at LeBron. LeBron talks about how he never even should have made it out, like how the situation he grew up in with a single mom and in a not so great neighborhood and this and that, right? That, like, you get lucky to make it out.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys, I think, feel that way. And I think that, it's one of those situations of like, what do I do? Like, do I do what's best for my health, or do I do I make sure my family's taken care of? You know what I mean? So I think that's an interesting thing that's happening now, especially in college football, where, some guys want to play because they're going to get drafted next year. And if they don't, they're probably concerned if they don't play, hey, maybe I don't get drafted, So.
Yeah, good. All good points there. It is a challenge for these guys. And then you have players saying, well, I'm not sure if you were hinting at maybe that player was getting paid on the side. I don't know. I mean, we all know that a lot of these guys are receiving direct payments or indirect payments. They're getting some sort of perks. The big name athletes, if they were to come up with some above board program to make sure everybody got a share, maybe there'd be less of this. There probably still would be some bigger names getting, the usual agent shenanigans that go on. See Reggie Bush, but the NCAA is just so mismanaged. However, it's a tough position to be in because these schools, a lot of them are private, and so it is a business. I saw on a Reddit thread about, if the players want 50% of any programs pay to go to all student athletes, then schools are just going to cut the programs that don't bring in any money. So, you have Aunt Becky's kids. How are they going to get their scholarships to be on the crew team at USC?
I mean, the other thing they could do, and this is something that's been brought up a lot, and not that these guys don't necessarily deserve the money that they're being paid, but I'm going to pick on him a little bit, but Nick Saban's like the highest paid person in Alabama that works for the state of Alabama.
Yeah.
And it's like not close.
Yeah.
Like, he's like the highest paid person by like more than a few $1 million, I believe.
Uh-huh.
Those are you're technically like working for the state when you coach for the school. Do you need to get paid that much? I
Yeah.
don't know. Like, these college football coaches are getting close to getting paid $10 million a year while their players get zero. At least, like, what we know about is zero. You know what I mean? So I think that's a conversation that might need to be had in terms of, like, where the money goes.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, for a lot of these schools, like I know for the University of Texas, at least this was the case like a few years ago, that the football team brought in a couple $100 million, and it was one of like, I think it was like football, baseball, and basketball that made money, and every other sport that the school provided did not make money.
Yeah.
So it was basically like, it was pretty much football from what I remember reading that like supported every other sport at the school.
Yeah.
So I do think asking them to do like a 50-50 split could be hard, and it could end a lot of people's college careers if not done properly. Because a lot of sports, like you said, are going to get cut. Sports that don't make money, especially the ones that really lose money, might just
Right.
get cut.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know what the answer is, but I love digging into the nitty gritty and just having conversations about it, because I think
right,
that's how things get figured out. You gotta have conversations about it, and the higher ups, the people making the decisions, just seem to want to shut it down and keep things the way they are because it's bringing in money. Anything that changes that disrupts the system, and maybe they can't afford that trip to the Greek Isles that they take every summer, or whatever motivations they have. Maybe their jobs are in at the risk of being lost to somebody who will push their agenda.
yeah,
So it's tough. However, as somebody who comes from a a family where my parents were divorced, and I was traveling back and forth between Ohio and here, and I was involved in sports, and I missed out on like the All-Star Baseball League because I was traveling. And money wasn't always readily available because of being in a single parent household in Southern California where mortgages are expensive. I didn't always have the best equipment. I didn't have access to like club teams and that sort of thing. Seeing what these other athletes have to go through is relatable, and I want people to have to all have the same opportunity. And unfortunately, that's not it. But talking about it and hearing about it, I don't know, maybe helps me understand the way things panned out for me in my own way. And I don't know, maybe it helps push the ball in the right direction for future generations. I got my daughter coming up, and it's someday we're gonna have to figure out what to do with her, with what kind of sports we want to get her involved in. And I want her to have every opportunity that maybe I missed out on. So I hope you guys listening do the same. Think about this kind of stuff, talk about it, and I don't know. You're part of the public opinion. Maybe we can collectively move the ball in the right direction. I really, I'm somewhat proud that this We Are United movement comes from a West Coast conference. A lot of news is kind of East Coast bias. So yeah. Anyway, let's wrap it up. Jeff, maybe we'll do a mock draft next week.
Oh, I'm
Football's
down.
coming up. You want to
Yeah.
do that? Sweet. We can maybe do a quick one. But yeah, that's it. Maybe we might have two shows next week. I might do a quick news story and then do our normal conversation with Jeff, just so we can spend more time having conversations instead of recapping news. All right, man. That's it. Jeff, thanks again. Thank you everybody for listening. We love you guys. all the usual. Subscribe, give us some reviews, and Jeff, let's go get some PF Chang's.
I'm ready.
All right, guys. See you next week. Later.
See ya.